And this special thing is very close to my heart. The special thing is actually a sport that we all have grown up watching. This sport is now played in over 100 countries around the globe. You, me, and all of us must have experienced or watched or played this sport at least once in a lifetime. Yes, you guessed it right. I'm talking about this beautiful sport called cricket. Hi, my name is Vishal Yadav. I'm the founder and CEO at Female Cricket. In the next 10 odd minutes, I'll try my best to tell you about female cricket, what we do, why we even exist, the challenges that we have faced in our journey over the last 8 years, the small milestones that we have also gathered along the journey, and more importantly, how can you play a significant role in shaping the future of women's cricket in our country. It all starts in 2003. I remember I was 10 years old. Everywhere we went, there was only one conversation happening: Cricket World Cup 2020, Cricket World Cup 2003. Sachin Tendulkar was one common name that used to pop up every now and then in every conversation, be it in your school, be it in your society, be it in your family gatherings. I hope you remember this team, right? For me, the Cricket World Cup brought a festive vibe. For me, it was more than just a sport, because I remember whenever India played a match, my uncle, my dad used to take leave from their offices and they used to sit in front of the Indian box throughout the entire day and watch and celebrate the Indian cricket team. Mom used to cook special dishes, and whenever India won the match, we also got to eat some sweet dish in the dinner. So for me, for a young boy who was only 10, the memory of cricket was very fun. It was more like a festival. And I never actually looked at it as a sport, but for me, it was fun, it was enjoyment, it was a mode of celebration. Sachin Tendulkar, the man. Initially, I did not get what the fuss was all about this legendary cricketer, but as the tournament progressed, I got a glimpse of this legendary personality. But after the tournament was over, everything went back to normal. It all went back to the mundane life, the boring life that we all were leading. And one thing that I missed the most was the fun, the enjoyment that this festival, that this cricket brought along. Exactly 8 years later, in 2011, World Cup, again, a men's ODI World Cup. I hope you all remember what happened, right? We won the World Cup, of course. Dhoni finishes it off in style and India lifts the World Cup after 28 long years. It was a festival that night on 2nd of April 2011. I clearly remember the date. I remember everything that happened after 10 o'clock in the night. We all went out on the street. We were partying, we were dancing, we were hugging each other, we were celebrating as if it was just another festival for all of us. Irrespective of our caste, irrespective of the religion, we all came together and we celebrated this festival. These two moments, particularly the 2003 World Cup and 2011 World Cup, changed the way I looked at cricket. For me, it was not just another sport, but it was a medium through which people came together. It was a sport that united everyone, irrespective where they came from, what their beginning is. Everyone was part of this celebration and they wanted to be a part of the celebration. This was the night on the 2nd of April and we all were celebrating, we all were cheering, right? A few years later, now it was time for me to graduate, and just like each one of you will also go through this, which was the trauma that we all go through, which is, what are you going to do after completing your education? Right? Suddenly out of nowhere, you will have your relatives, your neighbors asking you this question: beta, what's happening next? Where are you going to work? Which company? My dad, who had no idea as to what I was pursuing, science, commerce or arts, was suddenly very excited. Placement kaun si aa rahi hai college mein? And I'm sure you'll also get these kind of questions as you progress in your journey. But in my head, I was clear, because I had seen cricket all my life and I wanted to be around the sport somehow. So one thing was sorted in my head, which was that I want to do something around cricket. Second, I come from a very humble beginning. So I had seen, while growing up, I had seen a lot of debt on my family. The financial condition wasn't that great. So I grew up with this mindset that money is the root cause of all the problems. And someone also told me that if you want to get rid of this problem, the only way that you can get away is by having loads of money. And I read somewhere that if you want to make loads of money very early on in your life, the best way to do that is by starting your own business and not working in a 9-to-5 corporate setup. So these two things were sorted for me. One was that I want to do something around cricket. Second was that I want to have my own business. Now the third missing piece to the puzzle, which was again very critical and very important, what do I do? Because that is the question which most of us would get. And I was also struggling and also trying to figure out what should I do in this industry. Now back in 2015, and I'm sure you all must have, you all would also agree that we used to spend a lot of time on Facebook. Facebook used to be the thing, right? We used to spend a lot of time chatting with our friends, and I thought to myself, now that I'm spending at least 4 to 5 hours in a day, why not do something meaningful? So I used to reach out to cricketers, domestic cricketers particularly, and asking them to share their stories with me, and in turn I used to promote their stories on a website. So I started reaching out to a lot of cricketers, and it so happened that I happened to cold DM a cricketer from Argentina. And she was a female cricketer. She replied, and that is when I got to know, and I was shocked that there is a national cricket team of Argentina women's cricket team as well. But what shocked me the most was this question that lady popped, and it said, Vishal, tell me more about your Indian women's cricket team. So Argentina was also hosting a team from US, and they were actually looking to raise funds for this particular tour. So because when I reached out to her, she thought that she would also request me to give away some donations. Unfortunately, I did not have a lot of money to do that. But then we did exchange our conversation, and this question, when I saw this question pop on my Facebook feed, I was taken aback. I was stunned. I was shocked because I had no answer to this. On this while I was that cricket nerd, I used to be that person who used to boast about my cricket knowledge, but it was only limited and restricted to men's cricket knowledge. I had no idea what is happening in the Indian women's cricket ecosystem. Forget about the history, I did not even know what the present of Indian women's cricket team looks like. And this question changed the way I looked at cricket. And this also, now when I look back, it gave me a purpose. It taught me that there is more to cricket. This was one of the reasons, this question, that inspired me to do something around women's cricketers, to do something around female cricketers. And that led me to start Female Cricket, this platform, which became one of the world's first ever platform dedicated only to promotion and celebration of female cricketers. The idea was very simple. We used to celebrate these stories because all this while, be it on TV, magazines, newspaper, I only read about men cricketers. I only read about stories of their cricket. I grew up watching the stories of MS, Sachin Tendulkar, Virat Kohli, so I always was inspired to take up cricket, to be like them. But because the stories of female cricketers like Mithali Raj, Jhulan Goswami was missing, in my mind I was thinking that if I start promoting their stories, hopefully more and more girls will take inspiration from them and pick up the bat and start playing cricket. That was the whole and soul idea behind starting this female cricket. Now before I proceed in my story, in my journey, what happened next, let me give you a quick fun facts. How many of you know, and I would appreciate a quick show of hands, did you know that the first ever Cricket World Cup was not played by a men's cricket team, but it was actually played by our women's cricket team? How many of you knew this already? Okay, I don't see any show of hands. Moving ahead, the next fun fact. Also, this was in 1973, which was 2 years prior to the Men's World Cup. Moving ahead, who was the first player ever to score a double century in ODIs? I think the answer that most of us, in fact, Google also used to say that it was Sachin Ramesh Tendulkar. But the fun fact, the truth is, it was Australia's female cricketer, Belinda Clark, who scored this in the 1997 World Cup. How many of you knew this already? Okay, I can see 2, 3, 4 hands. Alright, moving ahead, another fun fact. How many of you know that the first ever team to score 400 runs in an ODI match was not the Australian men's cricket team, but actually the Australian women's cricket team. This was again in the 1997 World Cup match. Alright, last, and I'm sure you all would know this answer. Did you know that the first ever, or which is the first RCB team that won the franchise, the first ever title? Of course, the women's cricket team, right? When you guys are smart, you get the drift. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that if you see, most of these achievements and milestones were actually made by our female cricketers. But there was hardly anyone to share that. There was hardly anyone to celebrate their journeys and their milestones. And this was one of the reasons why why female cricket was initially started as a platform. That's the RCB women's cricket team which recently won the WPL edition. Now, all this may sound like a cakewalk, all this may sound like a bed of roses, but honestly it wasn't. When I began female cricket in 2016, very early on I realized that this is not going to make me instant money. Because you wanted to build your tech, you wanted to manage your website, you wanted to hire people for which you need resources. So I realized that female cricket initially is not going to pay me. So what I did was I took up 9 to 5 corporate jobs. I took up jobs in advertising, in marketing, so that I could earn something which I could then reinvest in female cricket entity, in my startup, in my project. I remember not taking a single day off between Feb of 2016 till Feb of 2020 before COVID hit all of us. I used to be back home every day, say around 7, 8 in the evening, and still sitting to work, having my laptop in front of me and wanting to work on female cricket, even if that meant working only for 30 minutes or 45 minutes in a day. But I made sure that I at least did something around female cricket. I was also the single person managing everything, writing web stories, reaching out to cricketers for interviews, managing social media handles, designing, video editing, hiring, all of that. So it was also very difficult. It was getting difficult for me as well. And plus on top of that, managing a corporate job. What that led to was 8 years later, today, we are #1 community of female cricket fans around the world. Today, we have got 2 million, we have connected with over 2 million people. They are connected with us across the social media platforms. Very recently, we also completed 100K on our YouTube channel, which is a big deal for us. We recently completed 300K on our Instagram, and we are about to complete the same milestone on our Facebook page as well. In 2019 of May, that is when I decided that female cricket needs my utmost attention and I should quit all my corporate commitments and focus only on this project. The idea was very simple, to raise funds, because I knew that initially this is more a capital intensive business. So for me to survive and sustain, I should rather have some investors on board. So I made a pitch deck and I started reaching out to angel investors, started reaching out to VCs. Only to my surprise that I got rejected by over 30 investors in a span of 2 months. But what was unfortunate is that everyone, all of them said one thing, which was women's cricket industry, this domain, is a business not worth investing in. Now, after 5 years, today, those are the investors who are writing us checks and they are wanting us to take investments from them. Quickly, some numbers for those investors who actually rejected us in the first place. Women's Premier League, we all know this, a tournament that began last year. In the first year itself, the sponsorship revenue was projected to be around 15 to 20 CR. In just a year's time, which is in the next season, in the second season, the sponsorship revenue has gone up to 100 to 120 crores. You can actually see the jump, right? Talking about the crowd capacity this time, it was projected that this time there was a huge surge in the popularity of women's cricket in WPL and actually saw 50% increase in the turnaround at the stadiums. Close to 350,000 odd people across 2 venues, which was Mumbai, which was Delhi, as well as Bangalore, people gathered. They celebrated, they cheered for women cricketers. But you must be wondering, I'm only talking about the Indian cricket ecosystem, but honestly, there's a lot that has happened globally as well. And globally as well, women's cricket has seen a surge in popularity. One of the major factors, one of the prime or the groundbreaking move that happened very recently was the pay equity policy, which was implemented by BCCI for Indian women cricketers. New Zealand Cricket Board was the first to accept this, was the first to adopt this policy, and gradually we also saw Cricket Australia and BCCI accept the pay equity policy, which now gives equal match fees to both men as well as women cricketers. The second advancement which happened was that ICC, the governing body in International Cricket Council, agreed that there will be equal prize money for both ICC men's as well as women's cricket tournaments. Women's cricket will now be part of Olympics 2028, which is going to be held in Los Angeles. Now imagine the kind of depth, the kind of reach that women's cricket would now enjoy, considering it has now been inducted in the Olympics of 2028. All this, again, may sound cakewalk, but honestly, all the perks, all the benefits that you see here, they are all limited to top tier cricketers. But the ground reality is very different. There are so many cricketers I'm sure you must be aware of. They are extremely talented, but then they do not make it to the national side or the state side for that matter. There's a lot that needs to be done at the grassroots level. There's a lot that needs to be done at the domestic level if we want to be the next global sporting house. And here are three quick reasons or three quick steps that we could take now that we all can help us and we all can help women's cricket to take that leap that it needs. The first and the most important is the grassroots cricket investment. We all have seen how Cricket Australia and England Cricket Board are way ahead of us when it comes to the talent pool and when it comes to depth in their cricketing ecosystem. One of the major reasons for that is that they invest very heavily at the grassroots level. For us, also it is important that a very specific pathway is laid down for young cricketers who are at the age of 5, 10, and they should be made aware that this is the pathway to a state team, to a domestic team, to a national cricket team. The second most important thing is that it is important that we create job opportunities for domestic cricketers. Now let's face it, the top 11, 15 gets to play for your country. Another 20 odd are part of the state cricket teams. But what about the rest of the cricketers? And honestly, the situation is very bad at the grassroots level. And I can tell you out of experience because I worked at the grassroots in the last 4-5 years. It is important that we incentivize public sector units and corporates to actually start giving some job opportunities and employing these female cricketers so that they can actually earn livelihood, also get more match time by introducing corporate tournaments. And the third and most important point is it is important that we market women's cricket well. We all know what happened with IPL, right? Because it was marketed well, it was promoted well, brands latched on to that opportunity, and today it is $1 billion business. It is important that we show our girls, show these cricketers. It is important that whenever the tickets are out, you make sure that you buy the tickets, you go to the nearest stadium and cheer for the girls. From the organizational perspective, it is important that we make it an experience worth investing in. These are the three things that I feel should be taken an immediate action on if we were to compete with the likes of Cricket Australia or with the England Cricket Board. And I don't have to explain you, right, how successful they are when it comes to leading the way forward for cricket in the country and around the globe. Last but not the least, I've been hearing this since many years that future is female, that future is going to be for females. But having worked in this industry for over 8 years now, I can proudly say that the present is female. And it is important that we invest in our female cricketers right now if we want to see them lift the gold medal at the Olympics or a trophy at the upcoming World Cups. Thank you so much.